here I am, and I would like to invite you for a Moment in Time podcast. It's Delilah. Cuddihy.
Yeah.
And I think it's better when I ask her to introduce herself because I can hardly say her name, although she's such a special person for me. I would like her to tell us, how do you spell your name, Delilah?
Delilah, Delilah, Cuddihy, Cuddihy. Yeah, it's an unusual name, but yeah.
You see, I have to remember from hay about horses, then I could say Cuddihy. That's the way I remember your name. And always Delilah, like a music.
Yeah,
so
Delilah.
Great that you're here with us. And the best thing is how we met, how life put us together. I would like to also ask you to explain the people that are here with us, listening us today and wanting to learn with us, how did we meet and why?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, Luciana. For me personally, it was 2015, I think it was. I was at Cuddihy show. I'm always very interested in watching show jumping horses. And at the time, I'm a student of Equitation Science International, a diploma that I'm on. And I was watching everybody in the ring, and you were galloping to the last fence, Luciana, if you remember, on Winning Mood. And you just, I think it was 7 or 8 strides down to an upright vertical of 160. And you just let him at it, is the way we say in Ireland, you just let him at it. And I was watching you galloping down. And you had such great forward movement, and you weren't holding it back. And I said, this is really amazing horsemanship. And you won the class. And I had heckles up on the back of my neck. I actually felt very emotional about it, to the point where, do you remember I walked over to you, or I saw you walking past at the end, and I spoke to you. And I says, well done today, you did fabulous. It wasn't because you won, it was because of the way you rode, and it reminded me of why I'm doing equitation science. It was fabulous horsemanship. So that's how we met.
Yeah, and you see, that was 2015.
Yeah.
And since then, we became friends. And you even work for me in the grow workshops I did in the last few years in Germany. And I would like you maybe to explain, what is equitation science and why is that so important? Because I have to tell you really honestly, I never heard about that before. Before you came in my life, honestly, I even didn't know that exists. Yeah. And since you told me a little bit about it, I feel like it's fascinating. Your work, the way you work with my students in the work grow shop in Germany, it was great. Can you tell us what is equitation science?
Okay, well, essentially, Luciana, it's a training program. It's based on the science of how horses think and learn. It's based also on the natural ethogram of the horse. That is to say, the horse is just a horse that is a herd animal. Well, a horse that is a herd animal has a lot of flight responses. He wants to just run away, and he's got simple needs of eating and so on, and grazing and having his company as a herd. So it's all the science of that, but we need to write horses, don't we? We need to compete with them. We want to get on their backs and win a Grand Prix. We want to do a dressage competition. And how do we do that? We train them to listen to our aids. Stop. Whoa, when we're coming to a big vertical. Whoa, whoa, come back. We need them to do that precisely when we need it. And then we need them to go forward, go. If you suddenly see a stride and you've only got half a meter left to get it right, we need them to go instantly. Then if you're doing a dressage test, you need to get those pirouettes and piafs and really high movements. So all of that is already on training scales. Everybody knows how to do that. For example, Luciana, you know how to get your horse going really forward if you're on a corner, don't you? I've seen you turn back on footy many times, and you have to say go with your legs, don't you? And you just literally let her head.
Yes, but that's what I feel fascinating, because I do everything by instinct most of the times. Yeah. I don't think. And you're saying that there's a science behind it. Yes. And this is what I think is really great. But how did you find the interest in doing something like that? Who told you about that?
Okay. That's a great question. I'll tell you why it happened. I was jumping up to about 120 with my horse, my second horse. I jumped up to 130. I wasn't very good. I'd been to loads of trainers. But every time, Luciana, I would come against this brick wall where I would be trying to do what the trainer would say. But in my heart and in my logical head, I was saying, you're asking me to tell my horse to go forward with my legs, and you're asking me to collect him at the same time with my reins. And he's getting all in a fluster, and he's pulling me still down to the fence or wherever it was, and it wasn't making sense. And then eventually got to the point where I couldn't make the transition to 120 with this very sort of not blood horse. So I says, I can't ride down to that fence. So my friend, who was already, she's a vet, and she's also does a lot with animal behaviorist as a veterinarian. She said, why don't you come along to this lecture about equitation science? I think it's going to help you with your horse. And I says, I haven't time. And then I says, right, I will come. And then she said, one of the riders who dropped out, could I be the trainee horse? I went to it. I explained to Dr. Andrew McLean, who was the first person, he was the person I met then. I says, listen, he just will not come back. And he says, okay, will you just do the cues I asked for? So he said, get your canter, and I cantered. And then he says, say, whoa, whoa, with your reins, and just stay still. Don't ask your leg, take your leg off, and just pull with the reins only. And say, whoa, whoa, and see if we can get him to stay in the same speed. At the start, I had to really pull hard, but then it got softer. And I trained my horse to slow down and stay in gait, stay in a softer, slower canter. And I was able to jump the fences then, no problem. And it would never have happened if I hadn't experienced that. But my problem, Luciana, was that was 12 years ago. And unfortunately, it took me a huge amount of time to stay with the program, to buy into it. So maybe that's where you and a lot of other people will be. It's a slow road for people to realize, and then suddenly the penny drops and go, I have to have this. So I'm way down the road with it now.
Yeah, but I would not say unfortunately, because this podcast is a moment in time. And for everything in life, there is the right moment. So maybe it's the right moment for you now to put in practice everything that you are learning with it. Equitation science, and you have the time now, so you can do it. It would be just interesting for us to for you to tell us, is kind of a communication with the horse, because you're telling, just make ho ho with your voice. Are you communicating like telepathically with the horse, or just by movements of your hands? How can you describe or how you communicate with your horse?
Yeah, sure. It's the same as the basic masters always taught back in the Italian masters of equitation. It's the clarity of signals, Luciana. Essentially, there are 4 movements. There is stop, there is go, there is turn, and turn right or turn left, and there is yield, which is move sideways, okay? Those are the only movements that there are. It's about clarifying the signals for the horse. So with the brain of the horse, if you train him from the get-go, that when the hands only mean whoa, and degrees of, if you pull your reins and he doesn't stop and you go whoa, 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 and the minute he slows down, you give the contact back to soft again. You're training the brain of the horse to say, that means, oh, when she does that, that means slow down. But if people keep their leg on squeezing forward, what does that mean? It's confusing the signals. So the legs only mean go, and the hands mean stop, slow down, step back, or turn right or left. And once you get that concept, the horse becomes very soft and very less cued in.
So are you saying that it's a kind of a mental training for the horse as well? I mean, this because you just said before, they have to understand the signals, and then they have to act by your voice, ho, 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 they have to stop, and they have to train also their mental, or how would that work?
Not at all. Not at all. This is pure positive and negative reinforcement.
Language.
Pull reins, what does it do to a horse's mouth? When you say pull the reins, and that's a negative force on the horse's mouth. No matter what way we recognize it's negative. So you pull the reins and the horse says, I don't like that in my mouth. And the minute he slows down enough, you soften your contact again. You're training him, nothing to do with your voice. You're training him from pulling the reins. That means slow down, stop, or step back. If you open the hand, which is a direct turn, you're telling him, turn that way, turn your head that way. He does it. And you close the hand and stop the pressure pulling to the right or left. He knows, if I pull my head that way, she will stop pulling me that way. So it's a negative force, but the minute you stop it, the moment the pressure stops, that's the point of training. Now, I know this is a lot to take in, but honestly, it's a journey.
Fascinating. This is fascinating. I love it.
Yeah.
Because it's just really fascinating. Can you say you became a better rider when you learned the equitation science?
You've no idea. It's like the phrase I always use is, once you know, you cannot unknow. And I love that phrase. Once you know something, you cannot unknow it. When I was being trained to, they say, push him over with your leg, turn him this way. I love the fact that now I understand why it works for riders doing it that way. But for the horse, it doesn't always work because it sets up confusions. But now with my new horse, I have a 4-year-old horse, and I'm training her from scratch, and I'm just training her. These reins, my dear, will only mean turn right, turn left, and they'll only mean stop, slow, step back. My leg will only ever tell you to go forward. And if you're doing dressage movements, my leg might slide back to tell you to raise your leg a bit higher, like they do in Piaf and so on, the very beginnings of that, all done with logic based on what the horse can understand of what we know of how they learn. And honestly, Luciana, it stops the need for big, strong bits and a harder, pulling and so on, because the horse starts to learn, That's why I love it.
Okay, then I have another question. What is the difference between equitation science and horsemanship?
Well, really, it's all one. Horsemanship is a term that's used for people that learn how to find ways of communicating with the horse to get it to do something, to turn, to load onto a trailer or a float, to, back up, whatever the thing is, or be on its back and turn and so on. Horsemanship is just a term to describe how we can get our horses to do things. But with equitation science, some of the things that horsemanship people do, they makes total sense because they've learned how to get the horses to do a thing their way. But sometimes that's where the science might sort of move away a bit from what they're doing. But a lot of the time they've happened on things that are actually good, and there is scientific basis for what they're doing. Like in your video of the masterclass, where you have the guy on horsemanship. He was working with you in Vertigo, and he was talking about getting control of the legs. And that is true. If you control a horse's legs, you can control his mind. And it sounds severe. It actually makes the horse quite comfortable and relaxed. A horse will relax when you're in control. Stimulus control. So this is a lot of information to take on board, I know. Yeah, it's exciting.
But anyway, it's absolutely fascinating, and I'm really, really, really happy that you can share that with us. I would say next time we do a Grow Right, we're going to all learn together with you. I hope you can come and join us, and we're going to be working together for many more webinars and telling the people the secrets of the equitation science with Delilah Cuddihy, right? Did I say right your name?
You said it lovely. You said it really nice. And you know what, Luciana? There shouldn't be secrets, because this is about the science behind. And wouldn't it be lovely? Because we in the world, we all believe in science, right? The science of global warming, the science of why things are happening. So why not use the science to make us the best riders we can be and the best understanders of our horses? That's why. It shouldn't be a secret.
That's going to get this inspiration home and work on ourselves to get better rider and also a better person. And we understand the force of the universe. Thank you so much.
See you later. Bye.